May I take the honor of requesting Siddharth Varadarajan, founder-editor of The Wire, to deliver his speech on the theme, Confronting Hindutva and the Politics of Friendship in South Asia. Sir, would you do the honors?
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here today at the Bengal Delta Conference. This is my second visit to Dhaka since the July 2024 revolution. And the more events and conversations of this kind that we have, the clearer it becomes to me that the road Bangladesh has chosen for itself is one that requires debate, discussion, deliberation, the widest possible consultation, so that you can find a path that has so far eluded not just your country, but the whole of South Asia and the rest of the world. When we at this conference say that Bangladesh is at a crossroads, what we really need to acknowledge, as I come from India, but as an Indian, as South Asians, as people from the rest of the world, that the path, the moment that the people of Bangladesh are confronting is something which is going to have a profound impact, not just on yourselves, but on this region and indeed the wider world, because you are rethinking politics, you are rethinking economics, and you're rethinking geopolitics at a time when everything that we have understood about these three terms is in complete turmoil. In Bangladesh, it's easy to reflect upon the fascism that you went through, the utter disregard for human rights, basic civil liberties, the hijacking of the institutions of a state by one party, by a family, by an individual, by a coterie, and to think and to resolve that you want to build a new Bangladesh where this old politics, the old political settlement that Dr. Mushtaq Khan spoke about will be forever cast aside. But this is a problem that increasingly around the world we are confronting in different ways. Before I came down for this event, I was just reading a piece in Mother Jones by an American historian called Slouching into Fascism, and describing events in the United States in the last year and a half, last 1 year, the kind of measures and methods that are being taken. And in a sense, what he's capturing is the frustration of people who thought that they had built institutions that were capable of resisting this kind of an onslaught. I mention this only because I don't think we should be under any illusion about the difficulty of the task that Bangladesh has embarked upon, the road that Bangladesh has embarked upon. Because if in countries which have had 200 plus 300 years of building institutions that were supposedly a model for the whole world, if respected scholars, journalists and others are speaking of a kind of fascism, then the path ahead for you is really very, very difficult. You need to build empowerment, accountability, create institutions that will bring people to power and ensure that they remain in power. But most importantly, you need to devise a method, a framework, a politics, a culture that will ensure that these institutions, this politics is not hijacked, is not suborned, is not undercut by the ways in which established democracies have seen their cherished institutions fall by the wayside. This is not an enviable task, quite frankly. In India, when we devised our constitution, and Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar was he was the chairman of the drafting committee, a visionary man, a jurist, an economist, and he devised, along with the other members of the Constituent Assembly, a document that he felt would put India on the path of democracy, of empowerment. But he warned that there is an Achilles heel in the best designed political document that you can come up with. And that weakness, that core weakness, is economic inequality. If you look at what is happening to the capture of politics in the United States, the destruction of democratic institutions there, if you look at the debates and discussions happening in India, where there is a lot of debate and discussion and concern about what is called democratic backsliding, if you look at other parts of the world, if you look at Russia, for example, the one unifying feature is the concentration of economic power in the hands of a small minority of people. And it is this concentration of economic power which produces a dysfunctional politics, one way or the other, a dysfunctional politics that will overwhelm the best designed institutions, because all of these institutions assume that they will be run, they will be staffed, they will be peopled by women and men of good intention, by women and men of a certain moral standing, by women and men who are immune from the lure and the pressure and the pull of big money. And sadly, if you look at how politics is driven in the United States, how politics is driven in India, and how politics was driven in Bangladesh, it's the burden of inequality on the political structure that produces the kind of authoritarianism, fascism, dysfunctionality, democratic backsliding, oligarchical politics that we see around the world. So how does Bangladesh guard against this? How does Bangladesh protect itself from this? And inequality does not only destroy politics, but it also undermines the economy. Today we are in a situation of great turmoil where tariffs imposed by the United States are leading to dislocation, the potential for dislocation in those countries that are heavily dependent on exports. And these countries are scrambling to find other markets, scrambling to find markets outside their country, because pervasive inequality over decades has ensured that despite a country like Bangladesh having the population reserves that it has, despite a country like India being the most populous country in the world, we do not have consumers in our country. So we are forced to look for a substitute market overseas, because successive governments, successive rulers did not pay attention to ensuring that the average Indian would be capable of buying things and would be capable of powering the economy. In other words, ending inequality and fighting for equality is not just a moral imperative. It's the dynamo. Equality and equitable distribution of income is the dynamo that powers a modern economy. And as Bangladesh rethinks its economic future, putting a more equitable economic framework and structure and policy in place is absolutely vital. Linked to this, of course, is the question of geopolitics, where Bangladesh, again, has a historic role to play, not just in South Asia, but in the wider Asian region, to reimagine what it means to have regional multilateral associations. If today South Asia is dysfunctional, there's no reason why Bangladesh should not take the lead in ensuring that South Asia and Southeast Asia becomes a vibrant place for commerce, for trade, tourism. So the ability to reimagine geopolitics is something that will flow from the kind of politics and economy that Bangladesh is able to build despite all the challenges it faces. One issue of concern for societies like ours, and I speak now as somebody from India, is the need to be ruthless in ensuring that religion is not used by politicians to divide and split people. We have seen around the world countries destroy themselves because of the ambition of politicians pursuing exclusivist agendas. I recall about 15 or 20 years ago, a conversation, a speech actually, that was made by a gentleman who was the UN representative in Delhi. And he had been posted to Delhi sometime in the 1980s. And after a tenure that lasted 15 years, was leaving India at the end of the 90s. And he said that I came to India as a citizen of a country that no longer exists. That country is Yugoslavia. A country that took pride in being a home to people who spoke different languages, to people who had different religions, but who were able to forge a certain kind of national identity without eliminating their own individual identities and aspirations. And he said that today that country no longer exists because chauvinist politicians destroyed that unity. Chauvinist politicians decided to play one religion against the other, one ethnicity against the other, one language against the other. And he said, this is a lesson that Yugoslavia holds out for a country like India. He was speaking to us, I think it was 2002, 2003. I don't need to underline the significance of that date and time. And he said, this is a lesson from Yugoslavia for India. I'm not sure this is a lesson that Indians have taken to heart. We are dealing with the consequences of religious polarization, the use of religion in politics, and I can tell you how damaging it is to the social, cultural fabric of the country, how much it undermines the economic potential and capabilities of our country, and how today the negative lesson that Yugoslavia was for the rest of the world, in many ways, Indians, all right-thinking Indians, tell people around the world that, for heaven's sake, do not allow religion and religious communalism, religious sectarianism to polarize, to divide. There is always this danger when reimagining, when re-envisioning, when reconfiguring politics. There's always this danger that some hidden demons from the past will re-emerge and try to assert themselves. This is an impulse that has to be dealt with firmly on the basis of defending the unity of the people for a common cause. Thank you very much.